Real Agriculture comes to you today from the Canadian Food Summit in downtown Toronto, and I'm joined by Ron Bonnett, President of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture. And Ron, one of the things that the organization has been pushing for some time now is a national food strategy. And in this context of the debate today, I mean, we heard Galen Weston talking about, food from a health versus price perspective. We heard Michael McCain talking about of Maple Leaf Foods, talking about scale of production and how the only way we're going to produce food in the future is we need to ramp up scale. We also heard about organic. We heard about the need for local. Given all that, how difficult is it to get a national food strategy?
Well, it's not easy. If it was easy, it would have been done a long time ago. But I think some of the things you described really are at the core for the reason why the Canadian Federation of Agriculture started with some of our members discussing the idea of an overall national strategy several years ago. We recognize that there's trends globally, that there's going to be a huge demand for food. There's trends domestically, people wanting special types of values in the food that they're purchasing. And a lot of the policy that we have in place is policy that's been developed over the years as response to one crisis or another. It hasn't been a real thought-out process of where do we want to go and how do we want to get there. And the overall concept of a national food strategy would be deciding what markets we're going to go after. Are they international markets? Are they local markets? And maybe in Canada's case, it's both. But if they are both, then we've got to figure out, okay, what type of policy, research, education, training, investment do we need to go after those? If it's international, we've got to do market development. We've got to meet the requirements in the international scene. If it's the local marketing, we have to figure out mechanisms to make sure that consumers have the opportunity to buy that product and make sure that regulations line up so that local farmers can sell into those markets. So it's about stepping back, taking a look at the types of markets that we go after, developing that strategy, and then working with policy to make sure that it contributes to the strategy rather than taking away from it.
And part of the agricultural landscape in Canada is supply management, and it's taken its share of darts and arrows here today. But you made a point that a lot of the aspects of a food policy and food in general that people are looking for at this conference are it's already part of supply management.
That's correct. Our own farm, we're a beef cow-calf operation now. It was in dairy for 25 years, and a lot of things like food safety, accountability, traceability, that was dealt with under the supply management system. And I think what needs to be remembered out of that is that at the core of making the key investments that are required, whether it be food safety or environmental investments, is making sure that there's a profitable farmer at the bottom of that. And that's one of the things that supply management has done a good job of doing, is getting decent returns for their producers. But if we move forward for a food strategy at the national level, we have to make sure that that's one of the underpinnings of all of the discussion, is making sure that there's profitability and sustainability at the farm level.
So talk about going forward, the big question. There's so many divergent opinions, agendas, perspectives. How do you make them all work? How do you bring them together? Is there a process? How do you get to the end here?
Well, I think the first start is even this conference today. It's throwing a lot of this stuff on the table. I think sometimes you've got, what do I say, you've got to air the dirty laundry and get all those things out on the table, create some understanding. One of the things that I was suggesting in my presentation, that I think there's a role in government to help pull people together as a facilitator. We know we have a conference board doing some work, CFA is doing some work, the Canadian Ag Policy Institute is doing some work, making sure that people come together. And I think the critical thing at the start is seeing if we can get some agreement on what that common vision should be as to where we should be going.